Hey all, I'm Cholasca, and I think everyone can build craft in Destiny 2. It's hard to know where to start as a new player, so each week we'll break down the exotics that Xur is selling and come up with some ideas to make the most of them. Then we'll use a 3-level system to slowly ease into our build making process. This way, you can follow along no matter how far you are in your Destiny journey. Level 1 will use the resources that everyone has access to. Level 2 will assume you've been playing for a while and are wondering how your mods and guns fit together. Finally, in level 3, we'll really make the build come to life using every resource available. If you don't like using guns, if you like to get close, to look your enemy in the eye, then Xur has something for you. You don't need to hide in the dark. Instead, brilliantly hold your light with your fists and unleash your inner titan. Throw hands and dance around your enemies with this week's Hunter Exotic. We've got the Hunter Exotic for this weekend, Liar's Handshake, which has cross counter. Using arc melee abilities or being hit by a melee attack will allow you to follow up with an extremely powerful melee counterpunch that will heal you. So I see arc melee here, which means that we're going to be on the arc subclass today, and we're looking to be building into either more of that arc melee damage or that healing ability. As for the melee ability, I think that Combination Blow here is going to go really well with this exotic. Combination Blow says that when we get a kill with this ability, we get full dodge ability back and more healing. So with the combination between Gambler's Dodge and Combination Blow, we can be going back and forth with abilities. Each one gives us the other ability back. Combination Blow is going to be healing us a bit. Liar's Handshake will also potentially be healing us a bit. All the while, we're continually doing more and more melee damage. So let's try this out. Alright, so I'm going to come up here. I've got my melee ability up, so I'm just going to use my melee ability. I got Combination Blow. I also had that cross counter for a little bit next to another enemy, so I can dodge. With Gambler's Dodge, I've got my melee ability back. Get a melee kill here. Now I'm at Combination Blow times 2. My melees are doing even more damage. So I dodge again, and I go in for another melee kill, and then I keep doing that. Just more dodges, more melees, and every time that I get those Combination Blow kills, I'm getting health. The Liar's Handshake is giving me a little bit of health as well. And we did like a third of the damage to the boss right there. On our subclass, we have the aspect Lethal Current that says that after dodging, our next melee attack has increased lunge and jolts the target, creating a damaging aftershock. So from that previous gameplay, you probably saw that sometimes I would punch them with Combination Blow and they sort of would jolt and then explode. That's coming from this Lethal Current aspect. Then in flow state, defeating a jolted target makes us amplified, and then while we're amplified, our dodge is more quickly, but that part we just kind of ignore because we always have our dodge when we need it. But you are more resilient when dodging, so when we do dodge, we have that little bit of extra damage resistance to help us out. Then speaking of damage resistance, we've got Spark of Resistance that says while surrounded, we are resistant to incoming damage, so while we're dodging, we'll definitely be super tanky. Then we've got Spark of Feedback, so this one's going to lean into doing more of that melee damage, so every time we take melee damage, we will deal more outgoing melee damage. Also a little resilience bump there to help with our damage resistance as well. These next two, you can kind of have them be whatever you want, but I've got that defeating targets while you're amplified creates orbs of power. So that's going to happen a lot with our aspect here. Every time that we are jolting targets and killing them, we're amplified. The jolt is a big multi-kill, so we should be creating lots of orbs of power, and that'll help with our super regen. Spark of Frequency here. Melee hits greatly increase our reload speed for a short duration. As for stats though, it's hard to say exactly where you want to put it. So we have a lot of healing, damage resistance built in, and because of our combo of Gambler's Dodge and Combination Blow, we don't really need to spec a lot into mobility to get our dodge back, or strength to get our melee back, just because they're going to be feeding each other. So you could opt to go with Discipline to get more grenade, though I felt that I wasn't actually using my grenade that much. I was just too busy dodging and punching. I did have Flashbang Grenade though to blind enemies as I first go into a room, but I really think that you're going to get the most value out of Resilience here and just really continuing to spec into that damage resistance even further. And that will help take this build into content like Master Lost Sectors, for instance. So already level 1, this build is great, but we can continue to build on it. So for level 2, I'm pulling in a couple of weapons to help us out here. Number 1 is the Dead Man's Tail. This is just going to be a really nice scout rifle you can get from Xur, and that's going to help us be able to shoot things that we can't run to punch. Then we're going to get a shotgun with 1-2 punch. And 1-2 punch is going to allow us to get an even bigger melee buff after we shoot an enemy with a shotgun and all of our pellets hit. And 1-2 punch has actually been specifically nerfed for Liar's Handshake. It doesn't give the full benefit it normally would, but it's still going to be an 80% buff that's going to help out for taking out those chunkier bosses and whatnot. Then for fun, I like to throw in half-truths here with Eager Edge, which you can get from the Dares of Eternity, and this will just help us close the distance a little bit so we can get to punching quicker. And then for our armor mods, I'm going all in on just trying to get my super back as fast as possible. We've already spec'd for damage resistance, our melee is killing basically everything in the room, so having that super for some bigger enemies would help. So on my helmet, I've got 2 hands-on mods that will give us super energy every time we get melee kills, which obviously happening a lot. And then on my cape, I've got distribution that says reduces all ability cooldowns when using your class ability near targets, which we'll be doing often to get our combination blow back. But what's interesting is that all ability cooldowns here also includes your super ability as well. Then, just to continue on with our damage resistance, we've got melee damage resistance since we're going to be pretty much in the face of everyone. So how we can use this shotgun with this build now with 1-2 punch, as I can continue to build up stacks of combination blow, and then when I'm ready to go in for damage, I go in for that 1-2 punch. And as we can see, we were doing about 1/3 of damage before, and then for level 3, I'm going to put on Well of Ions for our combat style mod here, and this says that when we pick up an Arc Elemental Well, our next melee damage does increased damage. And to get our Arc Elemental Wells, I'm going to use Melee Wellmaker, Powered Melee Combatant Final Blows, spawn Elemental Wells matching your subclass energy type. And then, on top of Well of Ions, I'm also going to put on Font of Wisdom, so when we pick up those Arc Elemental Wells, we are also getting a bump to our Intellect stack, which means that we're going to be getting our super back even faster. As for the rest of the mods, there's not a ton more really that we can be doing. I've opted to go with Striking Light, which is a Charge with Light mod. The Charge with Light mods are kind of this builder-spender process, so this is one of the spenders. Striking Light says that defeating combatants with melee damage and swords spawn 1 orb of power for your allies, consuming 1 stack of Charge with Light. So this is just helpful for if we were playing with some friends, and we can make them even more orbs of power. There's also this secondary perk here, gain damage resistance against combatants while sprinting. To activate that, you just need to have another mod that is arc specific, so I put on Invigoration here just to get that buff going. This will help us with more damage resistance when we're not already in melee and we're trying to get to the next melee. To get stacks of Charge with Light, I put on Elemental Charge, so every time that we pick up those Arc Elemental Wells that we're creating with our melee, not only is it helping us with our intellect and giving us Well of Ions for more damage, but it's also going to make us Charge with Light. So now when I run up to this guy up here and I melee him, you can see that I've got Charge with Light ×2 because I killed that guy with the melee, meaning that it had created a well, and then when I picked up that well, that's what made me Charge with Light. So now whenever I get these melee kills, you can see that it says cholasca generated an orb of power. So I am generating a lot of these. Unfortunately, it's only for teammates and not for me. Sometimes you gotta be a team player. So this is a master story mission. So I am 10 under in this situation. That healing already working out well. Just continuing to just dodge and punch. Yeah, and having that blinding grenade is helpful too. Let's see if we can get some more stacks of combination blow going here. So verdict on this one is that this is a great build. You could take this into pretty much any master content. I think Grandmasters, you'll struggle a little bit with survivability, but so does everything that's in close range. But definitely a lot of fun. Definitely if you are playing a hunter, but you're really a Titan main at heart. Remember, if you don't have these mods, be sure to check Banshee and Ada in the tower to buy their rotating assortment of mods daily. Thanks for listening. Subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified in time to get to Sir before he disappears and so that you can follow along in the next video.